I'm Melissa Shanahan, and this is the Velocity Work Podcast, episode number 4. This podcast is for attorneys who are running their own firms. We explore tactics, tools, and stories related to pushing past simply lawyering well and into building a successful firm. Working in your firm and working on your business are two very different things. This podcast focuses on the latter. Hello, friends. Welcome to the podcast. Before I dig in, I wanted to let you know that one of the concepts I'm talking about today has a big old fat cuss word in it. And so take measures accordingly. If that offends you or if you have young ears around, do what you need to do. Also, just as a side note, my podcasts are going to have cuss words in it. Just keep that in mind. If that bothers you, maybe don't listen. I don't know. But I just want to tell you this podcast, the Velocity Work Podcast, is marked as explicit so that I can do that and I don't get in trouble with iTunes. So yeah, just wanted to give you a heads up. I am excited to talk to you today about productivity, but that wasn't really deep enough. So I titled the episode, Be Productive, Planning, Discipline, and Integrity. I'm going to go through these important elements of quote unquote productivity. That word is so overused and so hyped, and there's all these articles out there on tips and hacks and all of that. The thing is, if you aren't already good at productivity, at being productive, tips don't really do much. Tips and hacks are to help you tweak and optimize your productivity. If you suck at productivity, it doesn't matter what tip you get. It's not going to make you good at productivity. So I'm going to talk to you today about some things that are really important to get a lot done, to make movement, to keep the momentum going and not get in your own way. Now, here is the truth. Productivity is very simple. Productivity is very straightforward. We make productivity with our minds something more complex and confusing, and there's excuses that happen and all this stuff. But productivity itself, to actually be productive, is very simple and very straightforward. So why don't people get done what they want to get done? Why aren't people more productive? Now, if we flip this question, I'm going to ask it directly to you. Why don't you get done what you want to get done? Why aren't you more productive? What comes to mind when I ask that? Often, it's a bunch of thoughts that will come to mind and just create complexity and confusion. These thoughts are lies. They are sentences in our brain that aren't serving us and they aren't true. Could sound something like, I am interrupted often, or I'm always putting out fires, or because I don't have the willpower, or because I get distracted, because I'm lazy. The thing about these sample thoughts I just gave you, or whatever might be in your mind, if that's your response, you're doomed. If you're going to stick with that, you're doomed. Those are very victim-y responses, like it's just happening to you. You say these sentences in your mind like it's just the way it is. But here's the thing. Successful people who are great at blowing their own minds take full responsibility for all of it. They take full responsibility for how they think, for how they feel, for how they act or behave in the world, and they take full responsibility for the results that they get. And this goes for good, bad, and ugly, all of it. They take responsibility for all of it. They own all of it. One of the biggest shifts you can make when it comes to productivity is to own all of it. Take control where you have control. And there's going to be some things you don't have control over, but you have more control than what you think. You have more influence on those things than what you think, and we'll talk about that. Once you really grasp what I'm saying here, then you can be much more successful with discipline and with how you spend your time. Now, there are a few things I'm going to cover with you that are important to have an awareness of and have dominion over, okay? I'm going to read through them real quickly and then I'll go deeper into them. The first one is constraint. I'll explain more in a minute. The second one is to deconstruct your priorities. The third is to plan your time. The fourth is to anticipate distractions and intentionally prevent them. And the fifth is show the fuck up. So I'm going to go back to the beginning. First is constraint. Let's start there. The definition of constraint is limitation or restriction, repression of natural impulses. The thing about constraining is it's very healthy to constrain down to what you're going to focus on. In the retreats that I lead you through, the framework that I lead you through, you set very specific goals. That's great. It gives us good focus. But then we set rocks, which are the levers that are going to get you to said goals. It's the things that you're going to execute on to get you to the goals. And when we set rocks, whether you realize it or not, we are constraining your focus to very specific things you're going to execute on. Now, without constraint, overwhelm is a major part of life. Overwhelm comes from having a lack of clarity, and that happens when there's so many options. Constraining down cuts overwhelm because you get very clear on what you're going to focus on, and you did so by reducing your options, by choosing and deciding specifically on one or a few things. So constraint is important to exercise. People have a hard time practicing constraint because they don't want to miss out. They want to keep their options open. And doing that is a huge mistake. Decide what you're going to focus on, put your blinders on, and go all in until it's done. There's a barrier that I tend to hear with constraint, something like, even though in the retreats we've decided very specific things we're going to execute on, they're rocks, I still have ideas that pop up after the fact, and they're good. And I think they're worthy of exploring and going for it. So here's what I always say, and I will never not say this. Keep a log of your ideas. They are important. They are valuable. There's probably some really good ones in the mix that you have. But the truth is, if you divide your focus and you add in something else to execute on and for your brain to have to focus on, it waters down everything, first of all. And you probably won't have a sense of completion on the things you set out to do. And many of us, this is a very default way of being. If you are one of those people that does tend to have a lot of great ideas, it's like a shiny object syndrome where you get distracted by your ideas. And sometimes it's because you don't want to lose the idea or you just think it's really good. And so there's excitement around it and you want to go for it. But the truth is, practicing constraint, this is where it comes in handy. Practicing constraint and just following through and getting the thing that you committed to complete. And then you can look at implementing your next idea, right? Or if you're a client, when you come to the retreats, bring those ideas with you because they may very well be rocks. So chasing your next good idea without completion of what you're already committed to is a waste of time. It is sabotage. I looked up the definition of sabotage. Any underhand interference with production or work, undermining of a cause. And that is what happens when you flitter from one idea to the next without completion. So constraint is important. And constraint requires discipline because it's you saying, nope, everything else has to wait. I said I was going to do this. I'm going to finish it. Okay, so that was the first one, constraint. Second thing that we're going to talk about is deconstructing your priorities. Here is probably the best time to introduce to you something called the Power Hour. A mentor of mine called it that a long time ago, and I've stuck with that ever since. But the Power Hour is once a week for an hour, you have time set aside, like actually calendared. You have time to look ahead at your coming week and basically get your priorities straight and schedule your time to work and focus on those priorities so that they get accomplished. And this doesn't just have to go for work life. I do mine on Sundays. Some people do Monday mornings first thing, but that only works if you are not going to be interrupted or have distractions from clients and or team members. Otherwise, it needs to happen on Sunday. It's a fantastic way to get ahead of your week so that you can hit the ground running. And like I said, not just with work stuff, personal stuff too. We all have busy lives in addition to our work. No better time to really get prepped for all that so we can be fully present with what we're doing. We know what's coming down the pike. We are able to be there for those around us, team and or family and other loved ones. And we can make huge headway on the things we wanted to accomplish. Power Hour is really important. If you don't already have something like this set up, I highly recommend that once a week you take an hour to sit down and get straight about your week. What are the priorities? What needs to happen? How much time do you have to accomplish these things? And how are you going to get it done? Here's how you deconstruct priorities. Let's say you've constrained down. You've decided and committed to a few very specific things that you're going to focus on. Now, on a clean sheet of paper, you're going to take that thing that you decided to focus on and commit to, and you're going to write out all the components of that thing, like everything it's going to take. It helps to think of this as like a project that you're working on. You're going to do a brain dump of all the things that need to happen in order for this project, quote unquote, to be completed. On this sheet of paper, let it be messy. There is no need to make sure that it's in any kind of order. We're just trying to get it out of your head and onto paper. The next step is to clean it up. So you're going to have another clean sheet of paper. And on that clean sheet, you're going to go through and organize your brain dump. Put it in a more proper order. Once you've done that, then you're going to go down the list and write how much time each step is going to take you. So I just write mine right out either to the right or the left of the line that lists the step that I need to take. And I put, 20 minutes or 1 hour or whatever it's going to take. I write that next to each step. And then once you're done with that, add all that time up and put it at the top of the page and circle it. It may work out to be, the whole thing start to finish is going to take 3 hours, but you have all the chunks broken down and you know how much time each chunk should take you. I used to teach on productivity. And when I used to teach this, we used to call this a project list and a task list. So you would have a list of projects that you needed to do to get to a certain goal, and then you'd break it down into a bunch of tasks and subtasks. And then you would assign an amount of time for each one, and you knew what you were getting yourself into that way. So this is sort of the same thing. I'm just simplifying it here. And truthfully, nowadays, I used to do the whole project tasks and subtasks and write it all out. I still kind of do that, but on these clean sheets of paper, it's just a little less tedious, a little quicker for me to go through, and I get what I need so that I know what I need to dedicate in terms of time on my schedule to get this thing accomplished. When you do this, what is amazing about this is that you have in front of you all the steps and how much time this thing is going to take you to get done. What you'll notice is that overwhelm dissipates when you do it like this. And it's because you're making the fuzzy clear. Your brain now knows exactly what it needs to do. When I'm leading retreats, once we set the rocks, then I'll have a giant Post-it that we have on the wall, and I will write the name of the rock at the top, and I'll say, okay, guys, tell me everything that needs to happen in order to make this rock complete. And so they'll start listing things. I will start writing things. So I just write everything messy on this Post-it. Then I'll say, okay, each of these steps, tell me how long this one's going to take. Tell me how long this one's going to take. And I write the time next to each step. So then at the end, we add all those up, all those steps, the amount of time it's going to take total, and I put it at the top of the page and I circle it. And always, once we break it down like this, it's never not been the case where there's just relief in the room where it's like, oh my gosh, this all felt so heavy. It felt like we had so much to do and it was so lofty and we're never going to get it all done. But now that we have it broken down like this, I see that it's totally possible. I'm like, yeah, isn't that wild? Our brains do that to us. So it's really important that you get it all out of your head and onto paper. You assign the amount of time to each step, and then you know what you're dealing with. Okay, that is what deconstructing priorities looks like. The reason I brought up Power Hour earlier is because if you're a client of mine, you will have plenty of things deconstructed and you will know what you need to calendar into your week. You will know what to focus on in your week based on where you are with the completion of that rock. But inevitably, there's going to be things that come up that you do need to do, or maybe there's something that you realize, oh, we actually need this system put into place in order for this to work. So then you need to deconstruct that and figure out what you're looking at there. So during your Power Hour, inevitably, there is some deconstructing of your priorities that needs to happen so that you can schedule and plan your week accordingly. The reason deconstructing your priorities is so important, as is Power Hour, is because what isn't fruitful is to hit your week with lofty, wishful thinking and have this list of priorities, and you're just going to hammer through it the best you can. That never works well unless you're like secluded by yourself in a cabin in the mountains and you know you're not going to be distracted. That can work. That could be a good like sprint. But for week to week, day to day, working with a team, having clients, you can't do that. It's not going to work. You're going to be very frustrated by your results. So it's really important that you actually break things down so that you can chunk things and you can make headway and make progress towards your goals, towards the completion of rocks, towards the completion of your priorities, which takes you closer and closer and closer and closer to your goals. And the more that you do this and the better you are at it, the faster you'll get and the more momentum you'll experience. And that's motivating. And so then that kind of kicks you into a different gear as well. You become a machine when you operate like this, but it requires that you do this. You have to deconstruct your priorities, and you've got to have some space at the beginning of the week to look ahead. The next step is to plan your time. So far we've covered constraint, it's getting hyper-focused and being disciplined about staying focused on top priorities and not switching your priorities. So that's constraint. The second was deconstructing your priorities. The third is to plan your time. So now in this Power Hour, which by the way, make this non-negotiable for yourself. So during your Power Hour, after you've made sure all your priorities are deconstructed and you've got the amount of time written next to each thing, look ahead at your week and schedule when you're going to do each of those things. This is going to require some prioritization because if you have more time once you've deconstructed your projects or your rocks or your priorities, if you have more time listed there than what you have in the week to give, than what's realistic, then good to know, right? Wouldn't you rather know that on the front end than on the back end? Go ahead and just adjust your expectations and your priorities for that week based on what is possible. Then go ahead and schedule your priorities into your calendar. Actually put it on your calendar what you're going to be working on from this time to this time, from this time to this time, and from this time to this time. And once it's all calendared out, your schedule makes sense to you. And of course, you guys, you know your schedules more than I do. Leave space for certain things, right? Like leave some buffer time. Make sure you have lunch. Make sure there is space to do email and the other things, like where it's sort of this unfocused work. Make sure that you have time to be available to your team members if they have questions or any needs. So you can't just plow through undistracted for 40 hours a week, clearly, right? And that's not what I'm suggesting. Be smart about it, but you decide when you calendar in what you have to get done. You are calendaring in undistracted, focused time to these priorities. When you put this on the calendar, this is not when you're available to your team. This is not when you're available to take personal calls. This is not when you check social media, et cetera, et cetera. We will go into that more in a minute. This is focused time that you're putting on your calendar. And focused time or deep work It takes a lot. You get better and better at it the more of it that you do, but don't overdo it for yourself. Start small. If you're not super productive, then schedule for yourself 2 to 3 hours a day of totally undistracted, focused work and go from there, right? Start small. Progress, not perfection. Always, always, always. Progress, not perfection. And you can build on your progress. Bottom line, schedule your time accordingly. Calendar your time accordingly for your deconstructed priorities. Don't make this complicated. It does not have to be complicated. It isn't complicated. Okay, so far we've talked about constraint. We've talked about deconstructing your priorities. We've talked about planning your time, planning your week, actually calendaring things in. And the fourth thing we're going to talk about is anticipating distractions so that you can intentionally prevent them. So still in your power hour, look ahead at your week. You've got your stuff calendared in. You know what's going to happen. You know you've got time to accomplish the things that are in your calendar because you've set it up well. Now you're going to prevent distractions. Look at your week and anticipate the distractions that are unique to you. But here are some things that you should do to prevent distractions, period. The first is to set expectations for those around you. Let your team know, let your spouse know, let whoever it makes sense, whoever those around you that might kind of tug at you, and that's just how it's been, and so that's what they'll do. Let them know that you're carving out time to be deep in important work. If they have access to your calendar, they can see when that time is, or you can just let them know when it is. But also let them know that you do have windows of time to surface for error, and that's when you're there for them, like for their questions and their needs. Also, request that they batch their questions for you or their concerns or whatever. Just they batch everything they want to talk to you about for that open time that you have. The other thing you can do that's similar to this is set regular check-ins with key team members or even on a person, like even maybe spouse, whatever, but set regular check-ins as necessary so that you have the space carved out for it and it's not going to be neglected and no one is going to feel neglected. The next thing when it comes to preventing distractions, when it's time to work, when it's time to show up and sit down and do your thing on your calendar that you scheduled, commit to shutting down and silencing all dings, pings, alerts, all of it before you put your head down to work. Close your browser if possible. Just whatever you can do to allow that to be just you and the work. That's it. So that you can really sink in. And speaking of sinking into it, set a timer. Because when you set a timer, it really does allow you to fully sink in without feeling like you have to have one eye on the clock because you don't want to miss what's coming next. So set a timer anytime you're going to sink into work because it will allow you to focus much more deeply and it will pull you out when it's time. Okay, the last thing I'll say here about anticipating distractions and preventing them. Anticipate that when it comes time to do what you said you were going to do, you're for sure not going to want to do it. So know that, and decide ahead of time that you're going to follow through anyway, that you're going to put your head down and work anyway. Don't be surprised by it when it comes to you. This is a perfect segue into the next point. The next point is show the fuck up. That sounds super harsh, but I'm telling you, I say it in my head pretty consistently for myself. When it's time to sink into your work, not a minute late, show the fuck up. You are not going to feel like it. You're 100% going to have urges to go get a snack, get on Facebook, check your phone, check your email. You'll even probably feel like doing noble things that you should do. Call your mom, spouse, kid, have an important convo with your partner. You'll have urges to consume content, whether it's social media, a podcast, an article, learn something. You may be even bastardizing this information that I'm teaching you now by mapping out all the steps for a new great idea you have. Whatever it is, no. No. The answer is no. Honor your commitment to do the thing you said you were going to do. This is what I meant by anticipating distractions. Anticipate that you're for sure not going to want to do the thing at that moment. Your job is to feel the urge that's pulling at you, but not answer it. Put your head down and do the work. Don't resist the urge. Don't shove it down. Don't ignore it. Totally allow it. And that sounds crazy, but if you think about it, an urge is something that you tend to experience to avoid an uncomfortable feeling. That's what an urge tends to be. So don't shove it down or resist it. And the reason I'm saying that is because the metaphor that people use about the beach ball is so perfect here. If you have a beach ball in the water and you push it down under the water, it's only a matter of time before it pops up with a vengeance. So it's not worth doing that. Just allow it to be there. Notice that it's there and be curious about it and be fascinated by it. And just yep, there it is. That's my humanness. I'm just human. That's what's going to happen. Take a deep breath. Let it sort of take over internally. Let the urge fill you up and don't answer it. Just stay seated. Whatever the urge is that's pulling you away, what's fascinating is that actually requires more effort than not moving, than just sitting and not answering the urge. But we will do it. We will leave ourselves. We abandon the thing that we said we were going to do to answer an urge. And I'm telling you, no, you've got to draw a line in the sand for yourself and have respect and honor the plans that you made. It's super uncomfortable, but you can totally do uncomfortable. Uncomfortable is just a feeling. And if you are willing to feel any feeling without acting on it, then you're set, man. People have a really hard time doing that. So many people feel this urge and they answer it immediately. It's just how they operate. It's how they live. Those people don't tend to get ahead. This is where discipline comes in, right? Discipline is a skill that you can develop more and more and more of over time by experiencing urges and not answering them. It's delayed gratification. Even though you feel like answering the urge, you remain committed to the outcome you really want, the result that you worked backward from to create this plan that you're executing on. Show the fuck up for your plans and for yourself. Doing so is demonstrating integrity. Practicing what I've outlined here will get you closer to where you want to be without delay, and without delay caused by you. It will set an example for your team. It will allow you to be an example of what's possible for those around you. I mean, you guys have heard me talk about this idea of becoming who you need to be in order to have the business you'd like to have. This is an element of that. It's time to get this straight. And remember, progress, not perfection. So to recap, we have constraint. That's important. If you're a client of mine, I help you do that. The second thing is to deconstruct priorities. If you're a client of mine, I help you do that. We do that with your rocks. So you can take it from there and apply it to your own life in other ways. The third thing is to plan your time. Now this I can't do for you. You have to do this. So sit down, do your power hour, look at the week ahead, plan your time, schedule your time, actually calendar it. The fourth thing is to anticipate distractions and prevent them. Take measures to prevent them. And the fifth thing is to show the fuck up. That is it, my friends. That is productivity. It's so fascinating. People get so confused as to why they aren't productive, or they point to the wrong things as to why they're not productive. It starts and stops with you. And truthfully, it is this simple. It is simple to just break the projects down, schedule them in your calendar, prevent distractions, and then show up for what you committed to doing. That is all I have for you this week. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much for listening to the Velocity Work Podcast. If you've enjoyed this podcast and you run your own law firm, you have to come see if the Velocity Work client experience is for you. Head over to hello.velocitywork.com to set up a free call. We can learn more about one another, answer any questions we may have for one another, and determine if the Velocity Work client experience is a right fit. I hope to connect with you soon. Show notes from this episode can be found at velocitywork.com/podcast.